Describe your perfect date.
It's a tough one. I'd have to say April 25th, because it's not too hot, not too cold. All you need is a light jacket.
Picture it. Listowel, Ontario, April 25th, 1941. Joan Elizabeth Agnes Park made her grand entrance into the world right in her mother's bedroom at the crack of dawn, 5:30 a.m. sharp. Clearly, she was destined to be a morning person from day one. The name Joan came from her mum's love for short names and an admiration for Hollywood stars like Joan Crawford and Joan Bennett. Elizabeth was a tribute to both her mother and her grandmother, while Agnes honored her late paternal grandma. But let's be real, her full name was always bigger than she was, so she usually dropped the Agnes part. An only child, Joan grew up in a house bustling with 4 generations of women. Dad was off fighting in World War II, so it was Joan, her mum, and her grandmothers keeping things running smoothly. Young Joan would finally meet her father in person upon his return home when she was 5 years old. In Joan's words,
Daddy arrived in June 1946. I was 5 years old. He came in, 6 feet tall, in a scratchy wool uniform, and he picked me up and hugged and kissed me, and I screamed like a banshee. I was terrified. We got it sorted out, and here we are a short time later. Quite good friends.
now imagine young Joan with a head full of thick black curls and a knack for making friends. Kindergarten brought her into the social scene, sparking a lifelong love for music through piano lessons and playing in rhythm bands. It also ignited her passion for conversation and connection with others.
Hello, this is Mary Ostrowski, Nee Park. I was a cousin of Joan's. I can just say, I don't think we saw Joan too much during the war, but when her father returned from the war, she came out to the farm to visit. She was about 3 years old, and I think she was the cutest child I ever saw. She was so pretty. Joan was beautiful. She was intelligent and very, very sociable. She is going to be missed a great deal. I don't think I can say anything more. She was a wonderful person.
School? Joan aced it. She even breezed through elementary school in 6 years instead of 8. By 12, she was tackling high school like a pro. In Joan's words,
Hope and I met in Miss Mitchell's grade 7 class when her family moved to Listowel from Stratford. I was chosen by her teacher to be Hope's friend and show her around and help her meet her new schoolmates. We were almost inseparable. We went everywhere together. She lived quite a distance away from me, but we walked to and from school together. We both had good, strong legs in those days. But we weren't the only ones. Almost everyone walked or biked to school. Even some of the teachers walked. Hope and I became friends with Joe Milne and Bev Stiller in our late teens. I knew Joan because our dads were veterans, and we met at Legion parties. Bev moved to Listowel in her teens, and she and Joe Milne were friends. Hope was the oldest, so had her driver's license before the rest of us. We would each give her 25 cents, and she would put $1's worth of gas into her dad's car, and we would drive around town and go to a movie or a teen dance at Parkview Gardens. Those were the good old days for us. We 4 stayed close and helped each other. We moved away from Listowel, but not from each other. We always kept in touch. When anyone was going through tough times, the others were there to help. I knew I could call on any of them and they would come. That's what friends do. These were my friends.
I came to Listowel from Stratford when I was 10, and we came in September. I had an emergency appendectomy in Owen Sound while I was on holidays at Sauble Beach. I couldn't go to school for 3 weeks because back in the olden days, you didn't do that after surgery. Joan and I went through to grade 8 and then high school. I went to nursing school at Victoria Hospital, and she did grade 13 again and then went to Teachers College in Stratford. During school years, Joan and I had several outfits alike and would phone each other the night before and check out what we would wear. I got my license at 17 years old, and because I had a baby sister 11 years younger than me, Dad let me have the car so long as I took baby sister Lynn. Didn't need seat belts or car seats for babies back then. I usually picked up Joan and a couple of other girls, and for 50 cents worth of gas, we could drive the streets of Listowel. Lynn tells me I told her for my 16th birthday, Joan got me the record 16 Tons by Tennessee Ernie Ford. 7 of our old classmates started getting together in fall once a year for lunch and Gabfest. Joan didn't come all the time, but we started in 1997. That was a long time ago.
Life threw Joan a curveball at 17 when she battled a bleeding ulcer, forcing her to take a step back from school. But did that stop her? Nope. She took on grade 13 the next year like a champ. Now, let's talk about love. In February 1959, Joan and Hope went to a teen dance to meet up with some friends. Enter Marv, with his curly hair, hazel eyes, and smooth dance moves. He and Joan hit it off, and the rest is history. Joan and Marv said I do in July 1964 with a full choir and candlelit ceremony. Sadly, though, the marriage didn't last. But Joan bounced back, packing up for Stayner to teach at Byng Public School. She was truly on her own now, living further from home than she ever had before, and forging friendships which would last the rest of her life. She called and wrote letters to her parents regularly as well. In Joan's words,
"My parents both had a sense of humor. Mom's was obvious, Dad's not so much. When I was living in Stayner on my own, Mom wrote me regularly. One day, for some reason, I made up a simple code and sent them a short letter. 2 days later, I sent the code. My mom sent a letter and a picture. My dad sent a letter in semaphore. I asked the principal for help. He was a scout leader. The note said, 'Dear Joan, you are a jackass. Love, Dad.'"
Joan was a wonderful kindergarten teacher. I remember Joan because I got in trouble for copying a friend's coloring, which she had done all wrong. I cannot remember who I copied from. I just remember getting in trouble and having to color it over in the correct colors. I also remember nap time, and I remember a gray tunic thing that she wore with a red shirt underneath. It was the style of the times.
life was a whirlwind. Joan met another teacher, Ed Maynard. They quickly found love, got hitched, and settled in Creemore. They started off renting an apartment in the building that had been the Sovereign Hotel. The rent at that time was $50 a month, with an additional $5 for a space in the garage for their car. Shortly after moving in, they met Ken and Marlene, who lived on the 3rd floor of the building, and became friends. Marlene introduced Joan to the afternoon soaps, Edge of Night, and Another World, which Joan continued to watch, along with General Hospital and a few others, for as long as they were on the air. Joan and Ed eventually built their dream home, with the help of family members from both sides, but not without a few bumps along the way. And when they discovered they were pregnant, it was time to get a nursery set up as well. In Joan's words,
"Everyone knew my due date, September 2nd, 1972, the opening game of the Canada-Russia hockey series. We made jokes about how I would have to drive myself to the hospital because Ed wouldn't want to miss any of the game. Well, we fixed him, didn't we? Sue decided to make her appearance a day early. September 1st was a beautiful, warm, sunny Friday, and I woke up about 5 a.m. with this niggly pain down low in my belly. Wonder what that is, and went back to sleep. By 8 a.m., I was wide awake, knew what it was, and about to be dad up as well. We checked into the hospital around 8:30 a.m. I was so excited and scared. I couldn't get my address right, but Dad got it all straightened out. There had been articles about the new Lamaze method of childbirth, without the trauma of noise, bright lights, etc. Dr. Ives had said he thought some of it had merit, and when I was wheeled into the delivery room, I found most of the light off and sunshine coming in the window. There were 2 nurses and the good doctor all grinning at me. One of the nurses told Bill I had cold feet, and he said, "None of that. It's too late to back out now." She explained that my feet were actually cold, so they wrapped them in warm towels. I thanked the doctor for the lighting and asked if there was to be quiet music as well. He sang a few lines of "Bringin' on the Sheaves," a hymn of Thanksgiving. Sue arrived on the scene with far less trouble and a lot faster than I expected. Less than 7 hours after that first wee pain, Dr. Ives said, "It's 11:45 a.m. The bell at Bing will be ringing for her." According to my mother, when I was a little girl and was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always said, "A mommy."
Ed's youngest sister, Janice, moved in for a while to help with the new baby, and Joan returned to teaching. Occasionally, she would take Sue into school with her and let the kids make a fuss over her. Flash forward a couple of years, and Joan was pregnant again, this time with a boy. In Joan's words,
Ken chose to arrive on a beautiful, warm, sunny Friday that just happened to be my birthday, too. We thought he was going to arrive earlier that week, as I had mild contractions every afternoon. Didn't eat just in case, and then nothing happened. They just went away. However, I was pretty sure it was the real thing by about 7:30 on that Friday morning. Dad was up and all ready to go, but I wanted to stay home until my mom called, as she did every year, to wish me a happy birthday. So we waited until 8 o'clock when she called. She asked how I was feeling, and I said, "Fine," through clenched teeth. Then she asked if I felt like going anywhere that day, and I lied to my mother and said, "No." There was no point in having her worry about what was going on when she couldn't come or do anything, so we just waited until we had some news to tell her. We made it to the hospital in lots of time, as Ken wasn't in any hurry to put in an appearance. The fact that he was a very big baby for someone my size might have had something to do with that. Around 3 p.m., the delivery room became a bit crowded as the nurses who were there didn't want to leave, and the new shift coming on doubled the number. We also had some students there observing. At this time, we ran into a bit of a problem. The baby was getting tired. He was tired, and we needed to get him out quickly. There was an older nurse at my head, and she was such a help. She held me up and encouraged me, and suddenly, there he was, all 9 pounds, 6 ounces of him. When the proud daddy called my mom to tell her about our great big boy, she was very excited and pleased. Then, all of a sudden, she said, "My daughter lied to me this morning, didn't she?" But she understood the reason and was so happy that the baby was healthy and had arrived safely, and she forgave me for the lie. I kept asking about the nurse who had helped me so much, but no one knew her, and I never saw her again. Years later, a woman I met briefly at the market told me about her experience when her first child was born. The baby was in trouble, and there was a nurse who helped, and all was well. The nurse looked just like the one who helped me. We decided it must have been a guardian angel, making sure our babies arrived safely. Whoever she was, someone was watching over us and keeping us both safe.
Joan didn't return to teaching after her son was born, opting instead to be a stay-at-home mom and manage household affairs. She often watched other children in the neighborhood after school until their parents returned home from work.
I've known Joan for 44 years, and we met at, it was a house-to-house euchre parties that we were raising money to build a new arena in Greenmore.
So how long were you friends?
From about the time we met, we just kind of clicked. So 44 years. I loved her. Joan was very friendly and outgoing, and just seemed to just draw you to her. She was friendly with everybody, and we had children the same age, so that made it even closer. We were the best of friends through the good times and through the worst times, and we were always there for each other. If she was in a pickle, I'd pull her out, and if I was in a pickle, she'd pull me out, and we always had each other's back.
Oh, Joan, I'm gonna love you and miss you forever. How many people get to have two moms? I'm never gonna forget you.
Mom was always making stuff, always. Like sewing, knitting, crocheting. She was making doll clothes. She was making people clothes. She made us little outfits all the time. I remember we had some kind of like photo shoot in our living room that had Ken and I both in like these little blue knit sweaters or something. They matched. Costumes, like Halloween was always pretty fun. There was always costumes on the go, sometimes more creative than others. Always baking, and just our house was always full of stuff that was handmade or handcrafted, homemade. Our birthday parties always had, when we were little anyway, often had like a theme of some sort. If Ken was into trains, there was a train cake. I had a pumpkin cake one time that I think was like a princess thing. But there was always some kind of a theme, and Mom would bake and decorate a cake to kind of go with it or match it. And I remember this one like awesome dog cake. I think it was like Snoopy from Charlie Brown. Super cute. Wasn't even for one of us. It was for some other kid's birthday. Some lucky kid got like a Snoopy cake that Mom did a pretty good job on, and I coveted that cake. I never got one of my own. I don't think I ever even asked for it, but looking back, I wish I had that cake. I would like to try that cake. And the cakes always had like coins hidden in it. A quarter that was like the big grab, right? They were always wrapped in wax paper and baked into the cake, but there'd be smaller coins. I think she kind of dispersed them so that every kid would have a chance of getting a coin, depending on how the cake was cut. But yeah, birthday cakes that my mom baked were always rich with little treasures inside, and then like decorated like a boss on the outside to boot.
In the late 70s, Sue begged her mother to take on the role of being her Brownie Troop's new brown owl when the post became vacant one year. Joan eventually agreed and signed up with her friends Marlene and Marjorie to lead the Creemore Brownies for a number of years, even after Sue had flown up to guides. She loved being able to interact with and lead children again as she relished her role as their brown owl.
Joan was brown owl to both my girls, and she always had interesting activities for their meetings. Both girls said how included she made them feel, as we were new to Creemore, and she was so encouraging to them to complete many badges and giving great suggestions on how to complete them. Joan also encouraged parents to help with activities. One that I remember well was a fashion show, and I helped make a huge crepe paper rainbow for the backdrop on the stage at the school. The girls were given great confidence to model their new spring clothes, a great experience for them. Joan was also the greatest sewer and knitter of Barbie doll clothes. I bet some of them might still be around. Another fantastic thing about Joan was her beautiful smile and great sense of humor. Whether you met her at the grocery store or on the street, she always had a cheerful conversation to offer. Joan was a great part of the community, getting to know all families, old or new. A funny story now. The Brownies were having a party for some reason or other, and my daughter was playing some relay game with marshmallows. My daughter inhaled one and was choking. Brown Owl helped, and my daughter will never forget the episode. Thank you, Joan, for the part you played in our family. May you rest in peace.
I remember one time she was reminiscing about something and started just randomly talking about pot parties that she used to have, and Ken and I were like, sorry, what? Turns out she meant like pots and pans, but for a second there, the 70s were alive and well.
Joan's entrepreneurial spirit kicked in during the 80s. She opened a store, Joan's Books and Things, where she sold, you guessed it, books and things. Plus, she jumped on the Cabbage Patch Kid craze, amassing a collection of the dolls, stitching outfits to sell, and even dressing up her own kids for the Santa Claus parade. Joan wore many hats over the following years, including columnist at the Creemore Star, occasional assistant at Flowers by Lane in Barrie, and a general staple of the community. She co-wrote the centennial book, A Glimpse of Creemore's Past, with Colleen Stamp, and the pair were also a part of the fundraising committee for the new library. She would even check in on Marjorie's dog, Digger, when Marjorie had to be out during the day. Joan and Ed became grandparents for the first time in 1995 when Ken's son, Adam, was born. And they were further blessed with more grandchildren, Madeline and Aidan, in the years that followed. Joan relished the time she got to spend with her grands, as she called them, and loved to watch them grow. The same kind patience and sense of humor she displayed with her own children was even further evident in her interactions with her grandchildren, including her joy of laughter and play.
Well, we went to Toronto shopping, and I had never been into a classy store. And there were fur coats hanging up, but they were locked onto the racks, and so I went up and tried to put one on. And Joan was laughing, and this clerk came running over, and she said, no, you can't do that. So we just kind of left the store, realizing, I guess you can't do that in stores like that. So
Even as adults, she was always willing to play with us. As kids, of course, she was willing to dress up and just be silly and have fun. But even as adults, any stupid idea my brother or I came up with, any ridiculous little thing, she was down for it. She was game. If it made somebody laugh, she was all in. And not that she was like a big comedian per se, but she was actually really funny and had an amazing sense of humor. I remember there was this one Christmas where Adam was old enough to read people's names off the labels and hand out the presents. And Maddie was going around opening just the end of every single present. Just one end, just peeled the tape back, pulled the corners down just to see kind of what was inside, just to get a glimpse. And then Aiden was pulling the labels off and crawling around with them sticking out of his mouth. So nobody actually knew who the presents were for. It was chaos, and Mom loved it.
In Joan's words, life's ebbs and flows brought both joy and sorrow. Divorce marked another chapter's end in 2004, prompting Joan to relocate to Collingwood with Ken, where even more friendships were forged and she could be closer to her grandchildren. Eventually, she was even able to return to the church, which had always meant so much to her, and enjoy regular gatherings with her favorite coffee ladies. In Joan's words,
March 2004. One Sunday, when the Grands were visiting, Ken took this photo. Adam was 9 years old, Maddie 5, and Aiden 3. November 2016. Last week, I came across it again and thought it would be fun to recreate the photo. It was more fun than we thought. We laughed, and this is what we got. Adam is 21, Maddie is 17, and Aiden is 15. Then Ken decided to take one shot where we were lined up properly by height. We wanted Ken in the picture, so we set it up and made us all laugh when he tried to get in place before the camera clicked. We got some good pics, but Ken liked this one best. Tuesday, December 25th, 2018. Merry Christmas! Ken and I went to Toronto to see Sue today. We had a good trip, lots of traffic. Doesn't anyone stay home for Christmas? But it was fairly well behaved. We had a good visit. I got to pet Brody a lot, and all of the cats at different times. It was great. We went to Fran's for dinner, but the Christmas turkey was too expensive. I had shepherd's pie.
Joan adored having her family and friends around her, and spending time with other people was one of Joan's favorite things. So when the isolation of COVID-19 came along in 2020, it hit her harder than anyone would realize. Tragedy struck on May 25th, 2021, when Joan wandered off alone in the middle of the night and would not be found until 11 hours later. It was a wake-up call, prompting a reassessment of her needs and well-being. She moved to a care facility in October 2022, finding a new community and, once again, a reason to smile.
She had this teddy bear that she was just like, they were joined at the hip. She took him with her everywhere. And so when we were moving her into Guildwood the first day, we made sure that the bear was there with her so that she would feel comfortable, and everything else being new, we made sure she had like at least her one constant. She took the bear all around the home with her. She was always carrying him, or he'd be sitting at the table in the dining area, or she'd accidentally leave him in someone's room, and one of the staff would go get him for her because everybody knew that was Joan's bear. And they just made sure that he was always with her as well. One time I went to visit, and the bear was just sitting on her bed in her room. And to me, that was a sign that she was finally feeling comfortable and safe in her surroundings, because she didn't need to have the bear with her anymore. He was nearby if she wanted him, but she was quite content to roam around and do activities and visit people, and didn't need to have him right there at her side the whole time. It was good.
Joan passed away on the morning of Tuesday, December 5th, 2023, at the age of 82, the same age as her beloved mother. She leaves behind a legacy of resilience, love, and laughter that touched the lives of many, and her spirit lives on in the joy she brought to those around her.
Joan and I were living far apart. Joan was in Collingwood, and I had moved down to Ridgetown, to where my daughter was, and we still managed. Ken brought his mother down to London, and a friend that she knew from school brought her to London, and I drove to London and met her and brought her down to my house in Ridgetown for a week, and I managed to in different years, drive up to Collingwood and stay with her for a few days. And I miss her.
Hello there. You heard about Joan Maynard's passing a few months ago. Very sad. Haven't seen her here in a long time, but the sweetest lady. Remember the first time I met Joan is when she came in with her son Ken, and they would come in for brunch. And then they would come in more and more often, and we really got to know Joan. Sweetest little lady, great hugs, amazing smile. And she just absolutely loved my food, especially the brunches where we served our pulled pork pancakes with Jack Daniel's maple syrup. She loved it. Sometimes she wouldn't finish it on purpose so Ken could get some bites. And then she also loved our smoked apple crisp and all our food. And we really miss you, Joan. We hope you're getting some pulled pork pancakes wherever you are.
She was the sweetest lady. She used to come in and always made you feel like she was so happy to see you with a big, beautiful smile. So, Joan, we celebrate your life and raise a glass to you. To Joan.
To you, Joan. Cheers.
This is my memory of Joan Maynard, a dear friend, a kind heart, a woman who was always smiling, a woman who put all her love and pride into watching her children grow. Joan was so very, very proud of them. She often would talk about them and keep me updated on the things that they had accomplished. I found this verse and it reminded me of Joan in many ways. It's entitled Heaven. There's a place I've never seen beyond this world we know. A place I've only heard of, but someday hope to go. It's not on any map. There are no roads to take me there, but it's a place of perfect peace where hearts are free from care. And though I understand some may be saddened when I leave, one day we will meet again. That's what I believe. When it's time to travel there, I think I'll wear a smile. I'll say goodbye to those I love, but only for a while. Knowing there are others who have traveled there alone, who cannot wait to greet me and whisper, welcome home. Keep smiling, Joan. You will be missed by many.
Joan had a smile that lit up her room. She was loved and will be missed.
Yeah, I miss her, and you couldn't have asked for a better friend.
She loved music and animals, children, family, and friends. I hope her heaven's filled with those things.
Old song slip away. Remember how we danced when the old folks used to play. Saturday night at Hardwood Lake, the fiddle and the old guitar would make the floorboards bounce, the room go around. One more couple for the last breakdown. Don't let that music slip away. Don't let that music slip away. Don't let that music slip away.
And look at that, we are 4, 3, 2, 1.
So we'll just go with what we got and see if we can manage that way.